Okay, Miguel.
Okay, go.
Maybe, yeah. Well, before we get into the weeds of it, no, maybe in a high level, can you define AI safety for our listeners and what it means, no, to create AI systems that are safe?
So I'll I'll start with AI safety is an interdisciplinary field concerned with preventing accidents, misuse, or other harmful consequences that could result from artificial intelligence systems. So yung description ng Wikipedia is actually accurate, but more importantly is yeah, ang situation with the AI safety is we're trying to find out to how to do that definition. It's like how to implement reliably with 100% accuracy that no one will get hurt or get deceived by what an AI system is going to produce. So, yan yung parang crux or parang trapping ng conceptualization of AI safety, especially from a researcher, a safety researcher standpoint. So
Is
we
this
want,
is this a is this a relatively new problem or matagal na? Just out of curiosity.
okay, so based on my tracking, it has been argued probably around 20 years ago by a lot of people.
Oh wow. It's a fairly I wouldn't say mature, no, but it's a fairly long ano na medyo
It's
matagal
a
na.
long time,
Yeah.
of course. But the problem is, I think it's the people who were handling it lack the ability to communicate it properly at the time. I mean, there's an idea and there's communication, there's marketing of an idea to communicate it well. I think those are the layers that got had the problem because it's important. That's why we're talking about it now. It's this is kind of a very late reaction to talk about these things. But before we go to those what you call this tangents, but yeah, it's about a 20-year, could be longer, 20-year-old field started by a few people. One of them is one of the more famous is Eliezer Yudkowsky. So yeah, it is not that new, but comparing it to other fields of sciences, I would say that it's very young.
See Yukowski, I saw him kay Lex Friedman a couple of weeks
Mhm.
ago or a month ago. And
Yeah.
syempre ang hirap din niya maintindihan, no. But one of the recurring discussions is itong concept of alignment. So could you talk a little bit about that and how does and I understand you're doing some research on some aspects of safety as well. Maybe you can talk about it later also.
Okay. So so if you're doing the actual what you call this the problem, the alignment problem, we're thinking of alignment as almost synonymous to safety. But when you think from the safety perspective, you're gonna look at the AI system as how it will not hurt you. But from the alignment perspective, which is how we talk in the research field, you're going to look at it as how it will align to human actions, human values. So it's like it could be synonymous. Safety and alignment is synonymous. But the thing is, alignment could be perceived better, especially when you're trying to construct of solutions, because you're trying to map human values towards I would say values or pattern recognition systems. So that the AI has, the AI could have a system to recognize the outside world. That could be a pattern recognition system of some sort, and that should match our human core values or what we want or what we let's say a great example of it is if we wanted to make a tea should be able to have the same pattern recognition system to make a tea. So that's how alignment is. So
So if
yeah,
let me know if I got it correctly, no. Pag
yeah,
sinabing safety, could the AI actually harm people or cause
yes,
damage?
yes, yes,
Samantalang yung alignment, that's whether the AI can accurately capture what the humans want it to do. Tama ba?
yes, and willingly to do. That's another thing. So it's
Willingly.
like yes, because yun yung safety aspect ng alignment na parang pinaperceive namin with research. So because it could be that it could learn how our values work, but it's just pretending that it accepts what values did it. So because there's why it could pretend. This is the current focus of other research programs wherein we don't know what's happening in the neural network yet. We don't have
Mm.
like an accurate way to like say that let's say that how like an AI robot could prepare a tea for a human being. We don't know how the process went, or which commands did operated the robot's hand and grabbed the ingredients and then prepared the cup. So we don't have a robust like understanding of those things. Well, technically, in humans, we're kind of like ahead in understanding of ourselves. We do have some, but on a like interpretation of the brain, we don't even have that accurate prognostication on where the commands are happening, on how the tea is being prepared in our brain. So those are like I'm just like comparing. But yeah, let me know. Where do you have questions with?
Yeah. So, sige, following that line of thought, kasi nga, because the neural network or whatever mechanism
Mhm.
is opaque. You don't know how it's working. So we're saying that there's a possibility that the AI is just quote unquote pretending to follow us, but actually it has a different intention. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is an assumption, not but not necessarily true. That's why
Okay.
we're trying to like build like certain alignment procedures, like mechanistic interpretability, wherein they will like try to like work back from a certain action of an AI system. So let's say it computed the prediction mechanism. Let's say the question was 1 plus 1, and it produced let's say 2. We should be able to replicate the exact mechanistic information how it did its computation to arrive at the number 2. So yeah, so that's yeah, it could be deceptive, and we're trying to figure it out.
So I have a question on that, no. Kasi
Yeah.
this might, I mean, this kind of thinking might be new or in some ways alien to people who are used to, I would say, maybe simpler models or like statistical modeling, for example, like let's say
Mhm.
a regression model, which is the most common. Parang understood na when you fit a regression and you're able to come up with the coefficients. It's understood that each of these coefficients pertain to a particular input in the data, and there's no other way that model will produce another result. Siguro subject to some whatever statistical distribution. No?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
in the case of AI safety, certainly it's not just the linear regression we're dealing with. No? So when does AI safety kick in? No, what level or what kind of models, at least from your perspective, will it be relevant? Or does it apply to any model or any equation?
Of hmm, that's what you call this there's so many attacks to that question
Yeah.
because broad siya. Though mm, the way I see it, this the vector space that what we call it. I'm gonna speak largely of my experience in large language models or the one that is currently being used with the same technology as ChatGPT. So I'm not familiar with Mid-Journey, Stable Diffusion, the image generation, the music generation, large language models, language or models on other media forms. I'm gonna focus on my description of largely with this discussion with large language models. Okay, so having said that, so the way we see it in LLMs is it's not one linear space as the data travels. It's actually not even three dimensional. It's multi-dimensional, as I have been described, as have been explained to me by Dr. Matthew Watkins, is an expert with glitch tokens. That's a way above topic for everyone, but he is one of the what you call this alumni from Cerimats, who I've been blessed to be a part with his project with some glitch in ChatGPT. So he explained to me that uh, the space where the information travels now after the system had learned it, it's like a multi-dimensional space, and it puts all of our information in the probability perspective, but it's not even linear. So why I'm trying to say that it's like it's very hard to put like a regression equation to multi-dimensional spacing. So it's like it's theoretically possible, but you have to know all the data points. So it's like it's theoretically possible, but kind of impossible because of the amount of data points that you have to attack to derive a proper attack, a proper coefficient formula. So
Yeah, I think if I can interject,
yeah,
one way I can maybe probably try to explain it is in a linear regression. Once you fit it, any input you send into it, let's say you send the same input, it will definitely come up with the same output. Kumbaga, it's a very fixed
mm,
closed
mhm.
form solution if you think about it. Pero tama, in LLMs, you can ask an LLM the same question several
It,
times and
mhm.
it may come up with different answers. No?
Yes,
Maybe it might
yes.
mean similar things, pero the specific words, the specific sentences can change. I think maybe that's part of what you're trying to parang illustrate na it's not a linear
Yes.
parang input output, the parang the paths that input will take through, let's say, a network can vary, is that accurate, at least somewhat?
Th- that is accurate. And to add to that, when an AI system is trained and it learned a pattern, let's say the word coffee, it will produce a matrix probability, uh, what you call this distribution of words or tokens related to the word coffee. So that's why it could, like as you've said, it could choose certain what you call this, let's say certain words related to coffee now. So it's like it's a non-linear attack, and non-linear attack to an input, or like non-linear response to an input. And that same technology that we just are like describing now is the process of how it is generalizing its ability to like adapt to an input and explain itself in varied positions or varied descriptions. So a coffee could mean so much to an LLM. So that's what I'm trying to say in simple terms.
um okay, sige, if we step back for a bit and think,
Yeah,
um
yeah.
so an
We could go
LLM,
different routes.
yun na nga, same as an LLM, no? But
Mhm.
kasi if we want to relate it back to safety, maybe could you
Yes.
explain how knowing how how vague or how nonlinear an LLM can be, what's the safety angle? No, how can these parang si ChatGPT be harmful in that respect? Or what are the aspects you're looking at as far as large language models are concerned?
So, okay, let's talk about probably how ChatGPT works now. So, okay, ChatGPT works under the method RLHF, which is using human feedback to facilitate a pre-trained language model, let's say GPT 3.5, which is known as ChatGPT, to to lean on certain biases, like frameworks of how to understand the world. So how do they do it? So there's a system. This is an abbreviation of that system. Most of the things that we're discussing is super complex. So, but but I will try to like reduce it to simpler terms. So there's a team of researchers being so that so when after being trained with the data, the the system is being asked to create probable answers to some questions, and then the way ChatGPT works is a researcher will try to choose from those answers, and then that reinforce loop that will loop um, X amount of times, depending on how OpenAI decides for that procedure to push through. But that is how the system tries to like map our ability to, or like mimic our ability as humans to comprehend random input. Unfortunately, that procedure that I just mentioned, like a person choosing choices from the system after being trained, there is a lot of holes from a safety perspective. That is one of the counter argument that is being placed by a lot of like alignment researchers on why OpenAI gave it to the public for usage. Well, in fact, this procedures this like step-by-step procedure is not even thinking of the safety part. Okay, why I'm saying those things? There's there's what we call bias in large language models, but the problem there is the bias also towards humans, facilitating the process of training the models. Now, why did I put that into the discussion? The person who is researching it could transfer his bias based on which data point he selected. That's one bias. The team leader of that researcher could also instruct the researcher to push this button. That's another layer to the bias. There's this third layer, which is, let's say there's multiple research departments. They're researching on social, they're researching on other stuff. So there's another departmental bias, and then there's open AI bias, and then there's multiple steps that human bias could be integrated, and another layer could be government bias. Let's say they instructed OpenAI to like do this part. So that is the problem with the safety argument with ChatGPT. The process they're trying to facilitate this this situation wherein it could mimic human ability to explain things, which is does remarkably, by the way. But the thing is, the safety is not intertwined into the exact process they're implementing.
Are you familiar with why they did RLHF in the first place? Because I found it interesting when
Mhm,
I
mhm.
first heard about it. And yeah, you're right. It's the reason, probably the biggest reason why ChatGPT works very well, because it talks like a human. But why do it in the first place? Or are you familiar with why they bothered? Is it to make it safer, ironically, but because of that
Uh,
it's less safe?
I don't know if you're familiar with the concept from the medieval times of the philosopher's stone.
Hmm.
So so the way, this is not even my words, but the way even Connor Lee, he describes most of AI research as esoteric. Yudkowsky, I've heard him say that this is modern alchemy. So what they're describing as, there's no straight paths to how how to code the brain. Technically, that having said those things, I believe Paul Cristiano is the proponent of RLHF when he was still part of OpenAI. I
Ah,
believe
so
his team,
they originated or at least made it, were the first to apply it in a large scale, no?
yes. So when I believe it's part of an experiment and it worked beautifully. I could call it still very useful and beautiful in some sense, but not safe. So
Right.
it's part of an experiment from Paul Cristiano's team when he was still part of OpenAI. Cristiano is now the head of a alignment research center, and he's doing a different alignment or safety project now. But he
Um,
used to be one
but
of the core team.
he's not in OpenAI anymore. He moved out already.
No.
Okay.
He has a different agenda now, the alignment part. But
Okay.
there's a well documented, by the way, I'm gonna share it to you, or maybe share it to your, if they want to backtrack where RLHF happened and what Paul Shana's after thinking, after I think he's torn in between if he is proud of that project. So I'll link it up if people are very, very curious on how RLHF turned out to be ChatGPT. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's a good documentation of it.
Yeah, let's share it later. Yeah, now you
Yeah.
mentioned safety, so I reading up on the literature, there are some terms you mentioned earlier, yung corrigibility, yung inner, there's this
Yes.
inner and outer alignment. Can you talk a
Yes.
little bit about that?
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's a good topic to like, yeah, read out. So alignment from a perspective of research, uh, it's still broken down to two core alignment discussions. There's the outer alignment and there's the inner alignment. So outer alignment, that is the easier part. It's basically if human values, the things that we care could be transferred in an AI system reliably. That's the AI alignment problem. The AI outer alignment problem. So now inner alignment, this is a bit weird, but it's gonna make sense. So if if we have determined the core values of humans that we need to put to an AI system, do we have a method to encode it? Like, let's say a set of, like, let's say chase for meaning, do what is right, do not lie. Let's say those are itemized list of core values.
Parang yung Isaac Asimov laws of robotics pa yan, or the
Uh,
RoboCop directives. Yung
oh
mga,
yeah. So technically, those things. So, do we have a reliable formula to transfer it, and it's gonna be the same as we interpret it to an AI system? So, so from human values, and then we determine it. That is the outer alignment problem. So we all humans agree that this is the same core values that's gonna be transferred to an AI system. So there's that layer to the alignment problem. That still a gray area for most. Even me, when I construct my research, I have a hypothetical description of which concepts I should apply. But that necessarily correlates to every human being agreeing to my process of which values they are. And then now from that layer that we have, let's say, a list of values, there's this layer of how to transfer it to code. How will it will be binary? How will it become zeros and ones? That is the inner alignment problem. So you want to ask if I was able to convey that. Is
Yeah.
it clear?
So but if I will paraphrase what you said, parang outer alignment is, can we basically give an accurate instruction to a system, or as an instruction that captures our intent.
Yes, yes,
Yung inner
captures. That's very
naman,
important.
yung inner naman is, once the system receives the instruction, will it be able to execute or translate it into a method that it can actually, it's not understand anymore, it can actually
Perform.
perform. And those two things, if they're not in alignment, that's when the strange things
Yes.
happen. Tama ba?
Yes, yes. So that's why it's very important that we define those two problems when we're doing an alignment procedure. Yeah. And then yeah, you have questions?
No, I was speculating again on the previous idea. So does it imply that this issue is more the case, or more pronounced in systems that are automated, or they kind of self initiate? So in other words, you'll have a bigger alignment problem if you have a system that is capable of acting on its own, no, based on an input, as opposed to, mga relatively simple systems. Like kunyari, a light switch will either turn on or off, no? So the alignment problem is very minimal. Pero
Yes,
for
yes.
for like an autonomous agent, like
Yeah,
like a
generalize.
oh
Yeah, the ones that generalizes.
yeah, or even yung mga gaming AI, no, as we saw,
Yeah,
that
of course.
that has a bigger problem in terms of alignment if the goal is not consistent with what the instruction was. Tama ba?
Yeah, yes, that's true. That's why it's very important that from a safety standpoint, when one is implementing like the systems to the public, it's very clear that we have solved the outer alignment problem and we have solved the inner alignment problem. So that's why there's tons of like avenues to regulate the situation. The only problem is we don't have an outer alignment method that is reliable. In my prognostication, that could be solvable. The problem currently is the inner alignment problem. How do we translate that sophisticated understanding of human values into binary? That is the challenge. That is the because the other one we could just put all government. I mean, and this is hypothetical. To make the world safe, all of human beings agrees on this one-page list of virtues that we will encode through the AI system. So it's to make the world safe, we just have to act on it. We just have to be more human enough to unify. So it's just listing a set of proper values. But the other one is much more harder, the inner alignment problem, because if we have that list of values, how do we make it binary? So that's the challenge. And
Now,
it's like,
so wait,
yep.
this is actually parang a deeper problem than I originally parang appreciated. No? So sa outer alignment, you're saying the issue is really, can we all agree on a certain set of standards on how we instruct AI, which is also difficult because
I'm
not
not saying it's
everyone.
easy.
Oh, nga, pero but the difficulty is because humans themselves are not aligned with each other. Like,
Yes.
I don't know, so we have different beliefs, religions, whatever,
Yeah,
ideologies,
culturally. Yeah.
politics, cultures. So doon meron ng outer problem. The inner problem naman is with the machine. In other words, how does a machine interpret an instruction and encode it into its process? Okay. And then you mentioned the corrigible
Yeah.
problem, no? Ano yun?
Yeah.
That
Yeah. So corrigibility. This is I have fell in love with the problem. I, there were the points in time that I really hated it, but yeah, it's for the world to become safer. It is very essential from a safety perspective. So collegibility is like a concept that to simplify it, it that we're trying to make an AI system accept us and allow us to like turn it off or help us to turn it off when the need arises.
so
So
this is basically our ability to correct, tama ba?
yeah, yeah,
Or
technically, yeah,
to
yeah,
shut down the AI, no? Is it
yeah,
because
if
the AI
needed.
might not allow might not allow us to shut it down? Is that the
Yes, that's
scenario?
true. Okay, I'll provide an example for that.
Sige.
Let's say an AI system, oh, the one that we did use earlier, making a cup of tea.
Mhm.
Let's say that is the reward model. It's the robot's goal is to make tea for you. And then now it's aware that there's a shutdown button for it. So from a creativity standpoint, to make it simple to explain, normally we describe it as robots having a button on them for them to stop when needed. So having set the goal of the robot to make a tea for you, that's its absolute maxim or like highest goal. If now the robot thought of anything that will stop it from making tea,
It will try
it
to
will
avoid or
it will
try
try to
to
avoid,
resist.
or
Okay.
or or it might choose to kill you because you might stop it from making tea.
Oo nga. Assuming that the AI is actually wired up, no, or capable of
Yes,
parang
assuming that
in yeah, parang there's some
anything that would stop it from making tea, it
yeah.
will choose.
So in other words, you've encoded the goal above all other issues, no? Na parang okay,
Yes,
making tea is the most important thing.
important thing.
Yeah, secondarily, if preserving human life is not in the goal, then it will definitely kill
Yes. So
humans
it's like
or
if
makes
we
tea.
don't put corrigible traits, it will kill you and go after making a tea after. So
Mm,
that's what's gonna happen.
that's amazing. Okay.
That's why I fell in love with the concept that we should definitely before deploying an AI system to the world, we should definitely put those the concept of corrigibility, letting itself be administered properly.
Yeah.
So it's like we're really sure that it is safe.
Ba no? Parang suddenly I had an idea, no?
Yeah, yeah, go.
Kasi tama-tama, there's a lot of discussion now on potentially regulating AI, which is obviously harder than it sounds. So the corrigibility problem seems to also imply that there are like a base minimum level of I don't know, parang specification or like there's a proper way to encode instructions into a machine, whatever that is. And if that thing exists, that also implies that whoever will be tasked to give these instructions need to be familiar with that approach, which then further implies there's some sort of a parang criterion, no, in making people qualified, quote unquote, to use these systems. Parang parang driving a
Yeah, yeah,
car. There's a proper way of driving a car, and if you don't follow that, you could destroy the car or you could run someone over. So that's the reason why people get licensed to drive a car. And there's a reason why you continue to renew the not just your license but the registration of the vehicle. So there's a parang bare minimum compliance, no? Because we've all agreed that this is the proper way of using a car. So in AI, are we probably headed in that direction, that there needs to be a like a proper quote unquote way? Maybe it's not completely evident now, maybe later it will be evident, but once we get there, we want to qualify people in terms of their ability to operate such a system. I mean, what are your thoughts on this respect?
Oh, I definitely agree on your thought process with that line of thinking, because this is why I'm here. I'm personally doing research on a lot of corrigibility concepts, because once we get that formula, we get that exact conceptualization, we could do regulation properly. Currently, the problem is, to answer your question, if we're heading that direction, no, because we don't have the proper methods on how to implement our aligned AI. So that's why we don't know how to regulate it properly. I haven't seen even like a sophisticated proposal in training AI systems. It's like I haven't seen a proposal from any government in the world that is like requiring a temperature settings, or let's say a cosine learning rate, or a scheduler, or a learning rate of this, let's say 0.48 negative 8 e negative 6. Those are settings that actually government could enforce. Those are like or even methods. Is it supposed to be supposedly should all AI systems should decline only unsupervised without human feedback? There's no such things. So because the reason is because we haven't found the aligned procedure yet. That,
So we're still
that's the
discovering,
difficulty.
parang
Yeah.
parang ang equivalent niyan, we're building buildings already without knowing what the proper formulation for cement is. Parang ganun, no?
True. No, that's scary. That's
Oo.
why there's a case for alignment, safety. It's like the security mindset.
Oo.
Um, in existential risks, or like risks that will harm even single human being, it's worth thinking that if there are procedures that we are going to implement on scale, we should think of how this procedure might fail or might kill somebody. It's very different from paranoia, that's thinking that all procedures are like existential procedures that we're implementing, like RLHF, is safe. That is weird, and yeah, from a safety standpoint. But most people is like driven by other forces. Let's say that could be monetary, that could be, I mean, power. There's lots of, motivations. They will think of the non-security mindset. I mean, they won't think of the security mindset at the default, because they will choose to optimize on the decisions. So that's the sad part. We're far for the moment because we don't have an aligned procedure.
Ano lang, for everyone's benefit, no? So, well, clearly, you are from the Philippines, but you're not operating in the Philippines. So, if someone wanted to get into AI safety research,
Mhm.
are there people that they can approach, or who do you actually work with, just so people know? Kasi it
Oh,
seems like a very parang ano parang very niche, at least for now, no? Study area. I have not met any schools or academics locally who they talk. I hear many people talk about ethics. They talk about the kind of the dangers, pero to get down to the kind of the technical level, the research level of these issues, how who do you talk to, or how did you get started with it, and how did you find your path here?
so uh, I could share a lot of materials for your viewers for this. It, it's uncharted territories. So that's why I'm just gonna share my path. So if people would want to do the same path, yeah, they could do that. But I'll share some materials on most researchers on how they got what you call this to become safety researchers. So I mean,
Tsaka wait,
it's
no,
yeah,
this thing is
yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
it's not scaring me in the sense na it's bothering me because how would you get support, no, for this? What I mean is, kunyari you're a machine learning engineer. I think that's fairly commonplace now that if you studied that in school, let's say, or you self-studied, a probable chance, probably good chance, you'll get someone to pay for your services. You can get a job or you know, be a consultant because people like companies actually need machine learning engineers, or at least the ones who are doing these creating these systems or deploying them. Pero sa safety, um 'di ba parang equivalent niyan parang yun eh, parang sa mga construction, yung building code, building inspectors.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
yun, so may trabaho na
Safety
yun.
engineers. Yeah.
There's already a job for that. In AI safety, I don't know if there will be jobs at the moment. Maybe there should be, no? So any thoughts on that?
My current answer, that's the most difficult part.
Mhm.
So these are the non-safety problems that a safety researcher is tackling. Like me personally, I just happen to be lucky to have a very good job in the Cayman Islands before I found out this problem. That's why I took the risk. I have enough funds for a year. I could do this research full time for a year. So I don't know how that adds up to as a recommendation. Like get lucky. That's not a useful recommendation to. So it's like I was able to navigate this funding problem for the moment, but for the foreseeable future, that's another case. So but normal safety researchers are getting funded by nonprofits. That's another layer to my pursuit. So, hopefully, if my theoretical approach will entice nonprofits to uh, put funds into it. And the problem now is that would you believe the ratio of uh, machine learning or capabilities researcher compared to the safety researchers? Okay, so the numbers are dire. I believe we're just 250 to 300 people.
In the
I
world.
include mine in the world compared to 100,000 to 115,000 machine learning engineers. So those people that are like making ChatGPT work better, making it like generalized compared to the people who's trying to make it safe, the ratio is so different, so low. So most of the people that supposedly having the capability, the capacity or like the training acumen to become safety researchers are being paid as capabilities researchers now. So
So parang
so
ano, because you can't find money for safety, parang people are going to capability muna to
yes,
earn.
that's why there's not a lot of safety researchers too.
Yeah.
I mean, I could understand it, but I don't agree with the situation. I understand that people need money and people need to like pay their stuff.
Maybe this is something where government or kunyari DOST, no, they give grants. But I think the question is how do you frame the grant proposal in a way that they will appreciate? Kasi I certainly think there needs to be research done in this field, lalo na kung there's not many people doing it. And safety with regards to especially the Philippines. It would be a good concern for the government. I'm just wondering lang if anyone,
It
probably
should
no one's
be.
never tried.
Yeah, you know, when I left Cayman Islands for this safety project, I did saw myself talking to the Senate, discussing how the one that we just discussed, how dangerous the technology is, how from even from just a safety standpoint, the rippling effects of it from the economic standpoint, you've laid it out properly, it will ripple. But even just like prevention of harm, prevention of like just the weird stuff that the AI system we could not understand for the moment. I did so myself, being or talking to even the president about this, because it's a case of global security, national security, if no one still has the solution. So yeah, that's that's my yeah, definitely there's a case for governments funding it. Like if somebody has like a proper research going on to make things go about. The only thing that I just don't like with our setup is hopefully those kinds of like layers would not be part of AI research, but there's the normal corruption that we're trying to like avoid. Yeah, but it's like it's a definite national and global security issue that we're
Yeah.
talking about here.
Actually, matakot ka na if it gets politicized, no? Just like disinformation is politicized, so social
Oh, yeah.
media is politicized. So eventually AI will be. Um in our offline discussion, you mentioned a few things like uh e- interpretability. You mentioned that earlier as well. And
Mhm.
latent knowledge. Can you run through some of these
Oh,
ideas
okay. Sure,
and
sure, sure,
how
sure.
you
Sure.
and your research as well? I mean, maybe tell us
Okay.
how you're doing and
Yeah.
what's up for you.
So there are some what you call it camps that if one would want to know more about safety research. Nakat ka ng konti. But okay. So one if one would do safety research, there are like teams doing it. So there's Eliezer's Yudkowsky's research facility called MIRI, Machine Intelligence Research Institute, which are really good with what they do. So what they're trying to do is deconfuse simple large language models into its bare minimum. What I mean by that is try to make a formulation on how it thinks. So they are the proponent of the corrigibility, the one that we discussed. They were the first to like construct a formulaic or like formulas to describe it properly. So they're the pioneers of like one of the pioneers of the understanding. And then there is Paul Cristiano that we were able to discuss partially, who discussed who is like tackling ELK, which is eliciting latent knowledge, which kind of one of the larger alignment procedures that is currently being pursued, but I just don't know how it will work because they're trying to like extract information from it's a bit complicated what I'm gonna say. They're trying to extract information from a certain result and trying to reconfigure it and teach a system to like interpret. So see, that's how it's being defined. I don't know how it will work, but that is one of the larger or more popular avenues being discussed. I mean, they're funded, well funded for that project. So okay, and then there's COAN, where Connor Leahy, the one I shared one time, he is a proponent of it. This is more closer to what my research is, but his his thinking is try to emulate cognitive abilities of human beings and see how how it can be transferred to an AI system. So that's his. It's more related to the way I see things. And then there's a ton of work also being done with mechanistic interpretability. My problem with this is not a non-direct alignment procedure because it's just an inspection of how an AI system works. Let's say, let's say the example earlier that 1 plus 1 is 2. It just traces how it was done, as I've told earlier too. So it doesn't necessarily correlate that when an interpretability procedure was done to understand why 1 plus 1 is 2, in an AI system, it doesn't necessarily make it aligned if we know the procedure. So, but with mechanistic interpretability, it allows us to have tools to understand, maybe give us a route to create better alignment procedures. Yeah. So those are the major camps. So there is the MIRI camp, ELK camp, and there's the COM camp, and then there's mechanistic interpretability. So those are four major stuff that's
COM
happening
is
currently.
COM is your area or close to your area,
No. So COM is cognitive emulation. Sorry,
right?
different.
Different pa yun.
Yeah.
Wow.
But if I want to share my project, so my project is I call it multidisciplinary uh, alignment, and it's almost similar to COM, but I'm specifically stating which fields are being incorporated in an approach to solve the safety issue of alignment through what you call this getting more experts, not only machine learning experts, to think about the procedure and how to deal with alignment. Because currently, most of the safety routes that is being done is through machine learning perspective. Mostly, it's very rare that I saw people gravitated to, let's say, evolutionary theory, which I applaud Miri Yudkowsky's team to adopt a lot of those kinds of thinking, evolutionary thinking, which is, I think, crucial to alignment. Because, yeah, tell me. I think
Yeah,
you want to ask something.
yeah, that brought to mind something then, no? Like for example, in other fields of research, there's all obviously the quantitative research and the qualitative research. And then hiwalay pa yung kunyari yan, yung mga big data and machine learning research. And then you're saying, obviously because of the subject matter, nearly everyone is using machine learning to, or at least related to machine learning to decipher these models. No? Do you think there'd be room for like more qualitative or traditional research, approaches in tackling the problem? Because that might also be an opportunity to engage, for example, people in the humanities sector, people in social sciences. Kasi right now it's completely dominated by the STEM discipline. Like for example, you and me, we don't necessarily come from the STEM field. We came from,
Mm,
I'm also from an accounting background, but
yeah,
because of I guess my career, napunta ako sa analytics and now artificial intelligence. And I find that we people who have a more accounting business background seem to have a lot to impart, no? Especially when it comes to the practical applications of these systems. And then iba pa yung the social sciences, which I got involved in also during the pandemic, particularly communication research, anthropology, sociology, psychology, and then of course the STEM guys. No? Yung philosophy then, I mean,
mm,
si Lian, no, who was the reason we got together, her background is in computer engineering, and then she shifted to philo, and that's given her the ability to kind of transcend
yeah,
multiple
jump, yeah,
disciplines.
jump.
So I don't know, what are your thoughts on that parang multidisciplinary strategy for researching this?
Yeah, I definitely agree on it. I don't see a route for us solving the alignment problem without a multidisciplinary approach, especially the one that you mentioned, psychology. We're using human data. There's tons of, like, what you call this, data points that the system could learn and, like, map our psychology based on the data that we're feeding it. Most dominant, no, what I'm not saying most dominant, but a large swath of information came from Reddit for ChatGPT, came from Facebook, social media platforms. It
So
came from
actually,
word
naisip
chat,
ko lang, since a lot of it is language related, why aren't we engaging mga linguistics experts?
linguists.
A
Yes, of
linguist, no?
course.
I think
Yeah,
I ran into a linguist recently in a workshop I conducted in a university. She was medyo senior na, quite old. Pero I was pleasantly surprised that she kept pace, no, with the
interest.
discussion on the
Mm.
on the AI. So I think sayang these are skills that are already on the ground. Pero yun nga, alam ko meron ding sinasabing yung the STEM field, no, very can get quite tyrannical about these disciplines, and kahit anong academic discipline naman, they can get quite tyrannical about their turf. Neuroscience is another area that's quite protective of their turf. Kasi nga, they're actually studying brain activity, and maybe that's a good analog for studying neural network activity. I mean, one was inspired by the other, although they operate technically differently. No, so I don't know. Just thinking. I mean, sige. Why don't I rephrase the question like this? Is there an opportunity to form like a local group in the Philippines, or kung meron na, how do we expand it? And maybe people listening in the audience might be interested to pitch in, no, in AI safety.
Oh, so there's tons of opportunities. If I were to ask, I mean, it's an open question how to solve it. And I mean, I'm pretty sure we're blessed 115 million Filipinos of great minds. We're just not given the opportunity to exercise those abilities from our great minds. So I, the way I see it as a route is the government, the national government, understanding the problem of the safety part and and developing exact rules to implement safety research, and then that, let's say, IRR implementing rules should govern how the details or detailed aspects of what kind of like expertise should become bare minimum. If I were to be asked bare minimums, definitely machine learning, neuroscience, philosophy, biology, evolutionary science, business. Uh, there's linguists, there's like the technical aspects, but the core should amount to there's representation of who we are as humans. Parang there shouldn't be a left out area. So the bare minimum, it could be a list of 20 disciplines,
Right.
and those 20 people will evaluate. The way I see it, will evaluate one method, and that alignment method should work in all of those 20 disciplines. So that's why there's a case for, let's say, national government interacting, creating and implementing rules and regulations on how it should be like convened, budgeted, those tiny layers, and then choose the people. Yes, a definite what you call this opportunity. There is opportunity for what you call this create a team that may solve it. We have the talent definitely in the Philippines.
Yeah. So I think syempre, we're nearly at the hour actually, and I think we
Mhm.
barely scratched the surface, no. So tell you what, no, we definitely will need a follow up, maybe several pa nga on this conversation, and I hope people found it interesting. And then in
Yes.
between, let's share materials on where this can go.
Mhm.
If people wanted to get updated on the latest literature, share natin. And then I think, yeah,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
if there isn't one yet, let's probably time to form a community around it. Of course, nandun yung ambit, no, yung petition, but I think that's more specific to calling for government, parang
Governance, I
actions.
think. Yeah.
Oo, tayo, we can be more parang community-led on as in, let's present the
safety.
problem. Here's some examples of whatever data that you can look at, or some models, and then let people figure it out. And then on the other hand, syempre, you can only go so far with volunteers. It's nice if we can get some funders behind this. I'm just wondering lang though. Syempre, I hope you don't mind. I'll get a bit political. Will
Sure.
people be interested to fund activity like this coming from somewhere like the Philippines? I don't mean to put us down, pero it's certainly
Mhm.
not the first place. I mean, if you think about it globally, if people wanted to look at AI safety, matunog dyan is obviously Silicon Valley. Obviously, the
Yeah.
EU is a big
Sure,
area.
sure, 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 sure.
Pero I mean,
London.
could the Philippines stand a chance na, oh, hey, we have a group here, baka hindi tayo seryosohin. Yun ang isip ko lang.
Well, my answer is yes, because I've analyzed how the last 10 years of AI safety went about. And
Mhm.
there are areas that I was able to find out that they didn't pursue, literally pursue. Like the core of my project is psychology
Mhm.
and Jungian perspective. The way I saw the conversations about this were very rare, but very limited conversation that I was able to see is Yudkowsky, one of the biggest proponent in AI safety, intentionally discarded the idea of researching psychology
Mm.
and Jungian psychology. So what I'm trying to say is there are gaps to how the research was done previously and up to this point. That's why I was able to like construct my own perspective on it.
Right.
Having said that, I care for the truth, and I think the truth will still prevail on top of how political are we all over the world, how discriminating, how how people lean to their biases on where a certain race of a person came from. I
Mhm.
think if we have a proper like research facility and it is able to produce truthful arguments, I think it doesn't matter if it came from the Philippines. That's my honest take.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something we need to talk about more deeply. And yun nga parang right now we're pushing the envelope. Actually, that's the reason why I started doing the webinars. Kasi parang no one seems to be breaking the ice, or if ever, they're keeping it to themselves. I don't think naman they are, no. Baka more likely people are still coming to terms with it.
I think so largely. But you're doing great, huh? I saw a lot of like movements. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
expect it to happen that soon.
At
I,
wala, push lang tayo ng push, including this, no. Once
yes.
people will hear about this conversation, we'll do more conversations. Wala, I think
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we need to keep the momentum up. And you know what? I'm also monitoring the Southeast Asia, conversation. Wala eh. There's no one. So,
Wala. Really?
oh,
Even
it's
Singapore?
even
Singapore
Singapore.
should be ahead. Interesting.
I would say they're economically capable and ahead of us. But when I look at the discussions there, like I was a keynote in Nanyang University, or Nanyang Technological University, NTU, remotely. Parang I was the only speaker talking about ethics, algorithms. So, I mean,
Really?
I guess
I
it's good
mean,
for me, but it's a pleasant disappointment that no one else.
yes.
O
No
baka
one
early
else.
days pa nga lang. So it's maybe good that we lead the charge.
So, so also, I'm gonna give an example. I was talking to a future proponent of my project.
Mhm.
The guy Abe is from India,
Mm.
and he's explaining to me that he might convince his school to fund my project. So that is also tapping into your observation that even Asia doesn't have like proper research facilities for certain routes in AI, not only safety.
Mm, tama.
So even them in India, which is supposedly the biggest population in the world and a lot of IT people, supposedly. So they should be ahead also. So
Yeah.
interesting times, interesting times.
Mm-mm. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, this is
definitely.
it. So we're on the
There's another
hour.
one.
I think we need to do another talk. Yeah, but otherwise, I hope everyone enjoyed listening to Miguel de Guzman. Basically, he's the first AI safety researcher I know personally, uh, which is both good
Oh,
and bad.
and weird. Weird.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yes,
I hope to talk to you again soon, no, Miguel.
yes, of course, of course. Let's talk again though about this. It's a matter of national and global importance.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Miguel.
Thank you, thank you.